So it's rare that I record a video with a trigger warning, but this one I will state a trigger warning at the beginning. We're going down deep into the shadow. This is about deep shadow work. This can be quite triggering, can be very intense, experientially. So just be warned. If that's not something you're interested in right now, turn off the video. Watch some of my other videos. But this one, we're going to talk about a very deep place. I'm going to make an artificial distinction here, which will be relevant to this conversation, but it's something I would hold lightly. The distinction is between shadow work and the deep shadow. We do a lot of shadow work in this awakening endeavor. Before awakening, certainly after awakening. And as we deepen realization, as we come into contact with parts of ourselves we didn't know were there, difficult, painful aspects of our psyche, our mind, our heart, our emotions. This is shadow work. It can be disorienting. It can be painful. There can be a lot of resistance. But at some point in everybody's unbinding process, later on, typically, in deep stage realization, you will come across this deep shadow space, for lack of a better way of saying it. And you'll know it when you're there. You'll know it when you're experiencing it. Some markers for this space, some associated experiences are rage, hatred. You may encounter these even before you really enter this deep shadow space. Existential terror. Another one that you'll know when you experience it. It's not the same as the fear barrier I often describe that occurs often right before awakening. That's very hot, intense, immediate, physiologic. This existential terror is far more fundamental than that, far more fundamental than an emotion, certainly far more fundamental than any psychological construct or sense of a cognitive or memory-based self. It's a very, very primal urge to survive that feels like it's being overturned, dismantled. This is existential terror. We often will feel even that before we really enter this deep shadow space that I'm pointing to here. So before I describe this, before we collectively investigate the nature of this space, I'm going to read a poem about it that is right on the money. It's perfect. Describes this experience to a T. It's called The Well of Grief by David Whyte. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. The Well of Grief by David Whyte. His last name is Whyte. If you're interested, check out his work. His poems are extremely powerful, transformative. So what is the nature of this deep shadow space? Well, I can give you some reflections by those who have entered it who find themselves here. Some descriptions which align very much with my own experience of it. This is a place where there's no hope. There's no management left. There's no escape. There's no solace. No oasis. No ability to imagine a better place or a better future. A sort of infinite blackness. Now, that could sound terrible in one sense, but I promise you this. If you want to know infinite expansion, infinite intimacy, infinite clarity, you have to know this infinite blackness, infinite loss, infinite grief. That's this space. Up until this point, you'll have coping mechanisms, ways of working in the shadow, ways of working with the emotion body, ways of holding yourself, holding these emotions, these energies that have been lost for so long, loving the lost children, parenting yourself. And these are all extremely valuable acts of compassion. But you'll come to the end of where those work for you anymore. This is the deep shadow space. Strangely, I'm reminded of something that's posted above the ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, as you descend into the darkness. If I remember right, it says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." So this is beyond hope. There's no hope here. Not a glimmer of hope. It can feel quite suffocating. So, why would you want to go here? You can't want to go here. But you will find yourself here at some point. You won't be able to posit a way out. You won't be able to make yourself feel a little bit better by telling yourself, oh, I'll feel better in the morning or in an hour. It's too complete for that. Too all-encompassing. But it doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It has tremendous value. But you won't be able to reframe it in your mind. You won't be able to put a positive spin on it. And yet the value itself is the experience itself. The absolute stillness. The absolute lack of volition, hope, meaning, purpose. This is the source from which we drink. Now, this deep shadow space may be entered as a result of life circumstances, grief in the relative, loss of a loved one, loss of your own health. Or it may not have anything to do with the external circumstances. You may just find yourself here. And by this time, you will have an insight that this is exactly where you have to go. It doesn't make you feel better. It doesn't make you feel like you have control in some way. It's not even about being better or worse. It's beyond all of that. But there is a knowing that this is the way. This is the way through. Fully in, with no hope of escape. So if you find yourself here, and many people have recently, because they've asked me about this, the only thing I can tell you is that it's okay, and that it's lawful for this process. It's part of the deal. I can't give you anything beyond that because it would be bullshit. I can't help you here. I can't point the way because there's no way here. But I can tell you that it's okay. This is how it goes. Your work is done here. The work of this unbinding is out of your hands completely, and you know it. So, there's no conclusions to make. We can neither make conclusions about strategies, healing, getting through, nor can we make conclusions about giving up, hopelessness. Even hopelessness here would be somewhere to land. You don't even have that. But you're being shown something in the most visceral way possible. And it's okay.